She looked like the perfect wife. Beautiful, successful, a loving mother of 3 boys. And when her husband died suddenly, she wrote a children's book about grief. But prosecutors say she had a secret, a deadly secret, because just hours before Eric Richins took his last breath, Kouri allegedly handed him a Moscow Mule cocktail laced with 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl. Was it love or was it murder for $2 million? This is the story of Kouri Richins, the alleged Black Widow of Utah. And in 2026, her trial is finally about to begin. I'm your host at Strange Chapter, and this is a case that will shock you. Welcome back to Strange Chapter, where we dive deep into the darkest true crime cases that grip the world. Today we're covering the Kouri Richins trial 2026 update, a case that has everything: betrayal, life insurance, a children's book that now reads like a confession. If you're searching for Kouri Richins' poisoned husband details or wondering about the Kouri Richins' fentanyl murder evidence, you're in the right place. Because we're breaking down every shocking detail. Kouri Darden married Eric Richins in 2013. They seemed like the all-American couple. Eric was a successful businessman. Kouri was ambitious, driven, building her own real estate empire in the mountains of Utah. They had 3 beautiful sons together, but behind closed doors, prosecutors say Kouri was planning the perfect murder. On March 5th, 2022, Eric Richins died in his bed. He was just 39 years old. The cause of death? A massive fentanyl overdose. His wife Kouri found him unresponsive at their home in Kamas, Utah. She called 911, crying, hysterical, begging for help, but it was too late. Eric was dead. And what happened next would shock the entire nation. Before we continue, if you're new to Strange Chapter, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We cover cases like Brian Koberger, Lucy Letby, and more every single week. And drop a like if you think this case is as twisted as I do. Now, let's get into the timeline. Kouri Darden grew up in Utah. She was described as outgoing, confident, and business-minded from a young age. She wasn't the type to sit back and let life happen to her. She wanted to build something, and she did, by her late 20s. Kouri was working in real estate. She had big dreams, million-dollar properties, luxury developments, a life of wealth and success. In 2013, she met Eric Richins. He was a contractor and businessman who owned Scene Stone Masonry. He was successful in his own right, hard-working, family-oriented. By all accounts, a good man. They fell in love, got married, started a family. On the surface, everything was perfect. The beautiful life together in Summit County, Utah. A stunning home, 3 sons, successful businesses, the kind of life people post on Instagram and caption blessed. But prosecutors say beneath that perfect surface, something dark was growing. Because Kouri wanted more. More money, more freedom, more control. And Eric was standing in her way. As the years went on, friends and family started to notice something strange. Eric seemed stressed, withdrawn. He confided in people close to him that he was having problems in the marriage, money problems, trust problems. According to court documents, Eric became suspicious of Kouri's business dealings. She was making risky investments, spending money they didn't have, and she was obsessed with a particular property, a mansion she wanted to flip in Midway, Utah. Eric didn't want to do it. He thought it was too risky, too expensive, but Kouri wouldn't let it go. In early 2022, just months before Eric's death, he allegedly told family members he was afraid of his own wife. He claimed Kouri had tried to poison him before. Yes, you heard that right. In February 2022, just 1 month before his death, Eric had a near-fatal reaction after drinking a sandwich and beverage that Kouri brought him. He broke out in hives. His throat closed up. He ended up in the emergency room. Doctors suspected an allergic reaction, but Eric? He suspected something far worse. He told his family, "I think my wife tried to poison me." But he didn't go to the police. He didn't file a report. Maybe he didn't want to believe it. Maybe he loved her too much, or maybe he just didn't think she'd actually try again. But prosecutors say she did. March 4th, 2022. Eric and Kouri had just closed on that Midway mansion. The property Kouri had been obsessed with. The one Eric didn't want to buy, but they did it. The deal was done. That night, Kouri made Eric his favorite drink, a Moscow Mule. Vodka, ginger beer, lime juice, served in a copper mug. She brought it to him in bed. He drank it, and then he went to sleep. Hours later, in the early morning of March 5th, 2022, Kouri called 911. Her husband wasn't breathing. Paramedics arrived. They tried to revive him. But Eric Richins was dead. At first, authorities didn't suspect foul play. Tragic, yes, but not necessarily criminal. An autopsy was ordered, and that's when everything changed. The toxicology report came back, and it was shocking. Eric Richins had 5 times the lethal dose of fentanyl in his system. 5 times. For context, fentanyl is one of the most powerful opioids on the planet. It's 50 times stronger than heroin. A dose the size of a few grains of salt can kill you. And Eric had 5 times the lethal amount. There was no way this was an accident. This was murder. Detectives started digging into Kouri's life, and what they found was damning. First, the life insurance. Eric had life insurance policies totaling nearly $2 million, and Kouri was the beneficiary. He was Kouri's fentanyl dealer. Text messages allegedly showed Kouri asking Carmen for some of those painkillers in the weeks leading up to Eric's death. She allegedly told him she needed them for an investor who had a bad back, but prosecutors say she wasn't buying them for an investor. She was buying them to kill her husband. Then, investigators found her internet search history. And this is where it gets chilling. On her phone, searches for luxury prisons for the rich. Searches for how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone. Imagine that sitting at your computer, Googling how to murder your husband, and then actually doing it. But here's the thing that makes this case absolutely insane. Just months after Eric's death, Kouri published a children's book. Are you with me? It's a book about a mother helping her children cope with the loss of their father. She went on local news, smiling, promoting her book, talking about grief and healing, all while allegedly being a murderer. The audacity, the nerve, it's almost unbelievable. On May 8th, 2023, more than a year after Eric's death, Kouri Richins was arrested. She was charged with first-degree murder and 3 counts of possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. The prosecution's case was clear. They believed Kouri had been plotting Eric's death for months, that she tried once in February, failed, and then succeeded in March, all for money, all for freedom, all to get what she wanted. But Kouri, she maintained her innocence. Her defense team argued that Eric could have taken the fentanyl himself, that maybe he had a secret drug problem, that Kouri was being wrongly accused. They painted her as a grieving widow, a devoted mother, a woman being railroaded by prosecutors. The case went to trial. But then something unexpected happened. A mistrial was declared. The reasons weren't fully disclosed to the public, but legal experts believe it had to do with issues regarding jury instructions or procedural errors. Kouri walked out of that courtroom, still facing charges, but not convicted. And now, in February 2026, the Kouri Richins trial is back. A new trial date has been set for February 23, 2026. This trial is expected to last 5 weeks. The Kouri Richins update February 2026 has true crime followers on the edge of their seats. Because this time, prosecutors say they're ready. Witness lists have been filed. Experts will testify about fentanyl toxicology. Carmen Lauber, the alleged dealer, is expected to take the stand. Text messages, search histories, insurance policies, all of it will be presented to a jury. And the defense? They're preparing to fight hard. They'll argue that the evidence is circumstantial, that there's no direct proof Kouri put fentanyl in that drink, that Eric could have obtained the drugs himself. They'll attack the credibility of Carmen Lauber, a man with a criminal past. They'll paint Kouri as a loving wife and mother who's being destroyed by false accusations. But here's the question everyone's asking: will the jury believe her? Or will they see through the tears, the book, the perfect Instagram posts, and find her guilty of murder? The Kouri Richins Black Widow case has captured the attention of true crime fans worldwide. Social media is divided. Some believe she's guilty, that the evidence is overwhelming, that she's a cold-blooded killer who deserves to spend the rest of her life in prison. Others think she's being framed, that the prosecution is building a case on circumstantial evidence and speculation. True crime YouTubers, podcasters, TikTokers, everyone is talking about this case because it has all the elements of a perfect true crime story: beauty, wealth, betrayal, poison. A children's book that feels like dark irony. And at the center of it all, 3 little boys who lost their father. Whether Kouri is guilty or innocent, those boys will grow up without Eric. That's the tragedy no one can ignore. So, what do we think? Here at Strange Chapter, we don't jump to conclusions. We look at the evidence. We consider both sides. And the evidence is troubling. The fentanyl in Eric's system, the text messages with the dealer, the internet searches, the life insurance, the previous alleged poisoning attempt. All of that paints a picture. But a picture isn't proof beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what the jury will have to decide. Can the prosecution prove that Kouri Richins intentionally poisoned her husband? Or will the defense create enough doubt to set her free? We'll be covering this trial every step of the way. So make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell, because when the verdict comes down, you'll want to be here. Will justice finally come in 2026? Will Kouri Richins be found guilty, or will she walk free? Drop a comment below. Do you think she's guilty, or do you think she's being framed? And if this case shocked you, smash that like button, share this video. Let's get the conversation going. Subscribe to Strange Chapter for weekly true crime deep dives. We're covering Brian Kohlberger, Lucy Letby, Courtney Clenny, and all the biggest cases. Up next, watch our bombshell breakdown of the Courtney Clenny trial. You do not want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. And remember, not everything is as perfect as it seems. I'll see you in the next one.